What's going on, YouTube? This is your Melanated Warrior, Haywood Haynes, and this is another installment of Facts Over Feelings. Leave your feelings at the door so we can get to the facts. And shouts out to all you melanated gods and goddesses. I hope that you're doing well as you possibly can in these very trying and volatile times, right? You know, to say the least. And so I just wanted to send my love and appreciation for those who've been supporting this platform, and also the ones who supported me by getting the manuscript and really enjoying it and spreading the word. Shouts out to you guys. I'm eternally grateful. And with that being said, I'm going to piggyback off of that first by, saying that one of the concepts in that, the first 17 or 18 pages or so, we had used the information, or we have referenced a Blanco scientist by the name of Nina Jablonski. And what was important, because this is how I want to start this off, what was important that we gathered from her was that this chemical, this special godlike molecule that we possess, is not just skin deep. Because that's what I want to start it off on. I really want you guys to understand that your position in this quote-unquote, what I like to term as the cosmological seating, has been, taken from you. Only we can accomplish this what seems to be insurmountable feat. Only we can take back Mother Earth. We are the living, we are the protectors, we are the vanguards. It's not just skin deep. And if you notice, like I said, they marginalize it by saying, we're all the same. We're all in the same boat. We need to come and work together. No, we have powers that you don't have. We have, once again, let me say this, and I know a lot of, because it's just time to speak like this. It's time to bring it to light. We have powers other people do not have because of melanin. Remember what we talked, like we said, carbon is only Latin for coal. And coal is decomposed plants. Literally, more than half of our melanin molecule makeup is carbon. Like I said, look at this as a supercharged form of carbon. Okay? And carbon, by their definition, is called the king of elements. This is something that they have said. They have defined this element as being the king because of what it is capable of doing. And yet, they also simultaneously, like I said, marginalize the being that you are as you possess it, because they sit up here and say, we're all the same. And also, this is an expression that you hear many of us even use. They hated me because of my skin color. They hated him or her because of his skin color. It was the color of his skin or color of her skin. No. What did we just discuss? What the Melanin has already established? This is just not in your skin. Like that Blanco scientist had already established. It is a migratory cell. And it colonizes your entire body. When you go look in the mirror right now, from the vast majority of us melanated brothers and sisters, we have brown eyes. Melanin is in our eyes. It is in our brains. It is in all our tissues. So the question should be, if melanin is our entire being, how can people who don't have our form of melanin treat us in any way? How can people who don't have this form of melanin guide us in any way? How can people like this who don't have our melanin guide the planet? I'm charged. It's not even hot in here. I'm just charged. I get charged quick. This is what I'm asking you, melanated gods and goddesses. How can you let them take the lead? How can you tell people who conveniently enough can't be in the sun for long periods of time? How can we sit up there and let them say, the sun, even if it was warming up, it should be the people who bring order naturally and spiritually to this realm to make that decision. Because as you see, it is the adulteration and it is the exploitation of this melanin of this carbon, and manipulating it into millions and millions of different compounds. And that has caused this release, this one, because they say, it's the carbon emissions. But think about it, what did we just discuss? Look how slick these Blancos are. Everything is carbon. So when you burn trees, you get carbon. When you burn wood, you get carbon. Or, another form of trees, and, houses, buildings. When buildings burn, it releases carbon. You see what I'm saying? Anything that biodegrades releases carbon. That's how they test everything. When they want the dates, the approximation of how old this organism is, they test the carbon-14 content. everything is carbon. How did you allow somebody to, convince you, oh, we're just getting too hot. We don't know what we're doing. What to do. We're just going to block out the sun. Yeah, that makes sense. And they want to talk about global warming, but we have to ignore. We have to ignore these people streaking up in our skies like we can't see it. Tell me when I'm lying, man. This is what you have to ignore. You can't come to them with them arguments, even though you see it. They got little Blanco girls spearheading this movement. See, remember, they don't have to be accredited. Remember, their opinions, as long as you have authority, your opinion holds weight. This girl ain't even had enough experience on this so-called realm, but yeah, she's up here spearheading the movement for, heightening the awareness about global warming and how disastrous it is on our planet, which lets you know if everything is carbon, then something is wrong with that argument. What other type of warming would it be if the whole planet is made out of carbon? If there would be no life on Earth without carbon? What else would be burning? What else will be being released into the atmosphere except carbon? You see, so when you get these individuals, like I said, all this lackadaisical attempt at research, as they claim. Oh, they're talking about Afghanistan. Remember, I told you, you're not going to be given power as a villain nor a hero in this realm without the approval of those who control the matrix. So we have to understand, too, as well, when we talk about those who are the global elite and those systems that we confront ourselves, that we're confronted with on the local and state and regional levels, we say, oh, well, yeah, they're nothing. They ain't got no power like the global elite. No, you're wrong. Small systems are nothing merely but the reflection of the system itself. Again, let me say this. Small systems are nothing but the reflection of the system itself. So when you go through these episodes on the, with these small systems, they are a reflection of how the global elite feel about you and what they know about you. Remember, they're the ones who came and took the information and stole it. And we're going to get into that. So you should understand that when you're going through these things, don't separate them. I know you want to, because those are the sideshows. Oh, they're around there. They're having these disputes with Afghanistan, and he's trying to stop nuclear arms deals or nuclear proliferation in places like Iran and Iraq and yada yada. No, he's not. Those are his boogeymen that he's created anyways. And we've talked about proxy wars, but the reality of it is, like I told you before, these are all Europeans. And how do we know this? Because Europeans are connected by language. And how do we know that? Because linguists say that all languages are connected genetically. That's what you need to know. So when you take a look at the Afghans or Afghanistan, Stan, S-T-A-N, means the land of. So like Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, that all means the land of. So the land of the Afghans. Now check this out. This is what's deep. The Afghans are from the Indo-Iranian branch, okay, of the Indo-European family. All right, that region, that Iranian plateau, which is the central, west, and northern Asia, include the Caucasus Mountains, include the Targos Mountains. These are mountain people. These are cave dwellers. We hate to say this, but this is what they are. Okay, these are mountainous people. These are the so-called, quote-unquote, Europeans, as they characterize themselves. All right? And then so what you have is, you have to then wonder, okay, why do they speak Arabic? Oh, I'm charged, because this is going to get deep. Why do they speak Arabic? Because that was their religious text. That was their religion. Remember, before Islam, they had other religions. Okay? And this was the language of the sciences. This was considered a higher language, right? All right, the sciences and the religion. This is in religious outlooks. This was all written in Arabic. And remember, Arabic is a Semitic language. So Arabic is a Semitic language, and the Semitic language is part of the Afro-Asiatic tongue. So your question should be, how did a European pick up an Afro-Asiatic language and running around speaking it? See, it's easy then to identify yourself with something ancient. This is how they tie themselves into the Egyptians. This is how the so-called chosen people tie themselves in. Because those who know are already adept, already understand that what? The so-called chosen people have Germanic roots. You know this. So how does a German people speak a language called Hebrew when Hebrew is a Semitic language again, because there go that Semitic language again, and that is a branch of the Afro-Asiatic tongue. So they knew when you found any Hebrew artifact or anything dealing with Hebrew, you would then associate it with those people because they took the language. Okay? They took the language. And then notice how important language is, because when they took the language from you, then they forced you to speak their language. Okay? When they took the language from you, then they forced you to speak their language. That's why it's silly for our people to be identifying themselves as a language, which is a big part of people's identity nonetheless. And they know that. They know it's only natural for human beings to do that. For individuals to call themselves Latinos when Latin is a group of languages, or birthed out a group of languages called the Romance languages. See what I'm saying? So you can't be Spanish no more than I can be English. You see what I'm saying? You see how important this is? This is what I'm trying to get you to understand. So what they stole the languages. All right? An Arabic text, or the Arabic written system was a written system used by languages such as Kashmiri, Punjabi, what other ones? Pashto, which is what the other language that the Afghans speak, or what the Afghans are known as. Then, because the Afghans and Iranians and all that, they identify really as Persians. Okay? And they speak dialects such as Farsi and Dari. Okay? But those are there's very few of them that speak that as their mother tongue. Okay? Because they want to speak Arabic, associating themselves with languages that associate themselves with the gods, that associates you with the gods. Because it's closer to the Metuneta, which is the hieroglyphs. Because you must know that, as Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, all those languages are Semitic, and those are a branch of the Afro-Asiatic tongue, and those are the closest thing to original Hebrew. Because original Hebrew had no vowels in it. Okay? So these languages are the closest to the hidden language, is what you need to understand. That's why this all, even from the language, you should be able to ascertain why this all comes back to you. See, so when you're dealing with individuals who sit back and, like I said, talk about Afghanistan and don't know nothing, giving you this half research, Afghanistan was going on and what was going, the United States falling out quickly, like they ever left. You know how long this been going on? Before them, and we know that the United States has been an ally of British for a long time. The British were, let's just take it back 100 or so years. Because what's entertaining to me is the fact that when religion, you can go back 1,000, 2,000 years and people take it to the heart. But I go back 100, 200 years. Oh, that's too long ago. Hey, Rue, you talking about old stuff. You talking about the 20th and 19th century. Come on, that's too old. But yet somebody will kill you talking about something that happened 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Can we make it make sense? So in the early 1900s, British, it's such a game to them. That's literally what they called it. They called it the Great Game. The British and the Soviet Union were beefing with one another. Okay? Because you had the position in Afghanistan was of prime importance, because Afghanistan had trading and migratory routes that was of concern to the British, because the British controlled India. Okay? And the Soviet Union wanted their foot within Afghanistan. All right, and why is Russia such a weapon, such an enemy to the so-called, Christian nations, even though it's primarily a Christian nation? But during the time of the Soviet Union, 6 of the 15 regions or republics, I think that's what they termed them, in the Soviet Union had a dominant Muslim population. You see what I'm saying? That's what actually encouraged the Bolshevik Revolution, because they felt like they can get the Muslim population behind them. All right? So what you had was a war like the Anglo-Afghan wars. I think it was like 3 of them. All right? And so by 1921, the Soviet Union and Afghan formed a treaty. It was like, okay, we cool. Matter of fact, to this day, Afghanistan has an embassy in Moscow, and Russia has an embassy in Kabul. Did you know that? Okay? So then you fast forward to 1979. Russia overthrows Afghanistan's government and has a Russian-backed government in Afghanistan, which is then dismantled through guerrilla warfare by the United States funding the Mujahideen. Okay, I think that's how you say it. But the Mujahideen was funded by the United States, Britain, China, India. Okay? And then it was dismantled by 1992, which also dismantled the Soviet Union, only in name. Because then they signed into what was called the common interest agreements between, all of those remaining states. So saying that they all had their common interests in heart. Okay, so what's the difference? You just change the name. That's what you need to understand. Ooh, I'm charged up. So it's unfortunate that we don't get this history. It's almost like you're asked, people take up the responsibility of trying to inform someone of a certain state of things, and yet they don't include the history. You think that they got autonomy? We've already discussed this. We've already discussed these proxy wars. So this has always been Russia and the United States bickering with one another, and the British and all these other so-called superpowers bickering with one another via Afghanistan. All right, not just for the resources, the opium and all of that different stuff, the artifacts and all of that, so that they can continuously be tied into them, so these individuals could look like they are old people, people with history, but they're Johnny-come-latelys. And they all are fighting for position in the new world order. Remember, like I said, and I'm going to say this over again throughout this segment, you cannot be given power as a villain or a hero unless you are of the European bloodlines, or so-called European bloodlines. And remember, like we said, linguists say that all languages are related genetically. So the Afghans are from the Indo-Iranian branch of the Indo-European tongue. They are Europeans. Once again, like we said, that Iranian plateau, the central, west, and northern areas of Asia, the Caucasus Mountains, the Targos Mountains, this is where those people are from. The same people, just taking up your language. This is deep, ain't it? So this is what I'm saying to you, they say, oh, well, why would they give the Afghans protection? What do they do for black people? That's their people. Why wouldn't they give them protection? Just like after World War II, when Europe had destroyed each other, what did they do? They entered into the Marshall Plan and they rebuilt one another. What is wrong with you Negroes? Think about this. If these Europeans hated one another, why would they rebuild one another after war? Once again, see how charged I am because I'm dropping some jewels on y'all right now. I hope that y'all really internalizing this. If they were not in it all together, why would they rebuild each other? They went to war with you. They went to war with African nations. Did they rebuild Africa? Who is this war against? You think because some people die that make it serious? No, they ready to go full throttle with this political theater to fool you. Notice what we said before. Think about it. Like I said, you won't be given no power. This is another example I'm about to bring into it. Now, we already know that the United States and Russia now account for 60% or over 60% of weapons sales on this so-called globe. So get this. When you get people like Iran and Iraq or whoever in the Middle East getting their hands on nuclear weapons, the fact that they even got their hands on them speaks volumes. Because there's no African nation to date or ever that has been in possession of nuclear weapons. Now think how deep that is. Let it sink in. The only African nation that had nuclear weapons was South Africa, but that was when it was ruled by Blancos. Now South Africa has no nuclear capabilities. So it's just by chance that when Blancos stepped down, now all of a sudden there's no nuclear program. You see what I'm saying? Are y'all getting this? See, any type of power you get in this matrix, whether you are the villain or whether you are the hero in their matrix, it can only be given to you if you have European ancestry. or you are part of those bloodlines. And you can identify the bloodlines because they have power. I don't care how, if it's nominal, as long as they push out the image. Because think about it, regardless, if you write a comic book, if you make you got your hero and you got your villain, you have to make your villain with some power, or give him some power, in order to make the hero that much more of a hero. Because you're only as strong as what you go up against. So if the hero faces a weak villain, how strong is your hero? See how important this is, how decoding this means a lot? Because it all comes back to you, carbon beings. This is nothing, like we said, this is the science. Organic chemistry states everything is made out of carbon. They call carbon the king of elements. Not us. We didn't say that. But if I sit up here and say that because I have it in my skin, oh, I'm some sort of supremacist, I'm some egomaniac, fueled by these wild ideas about greatness coming out of melanin. That's why I said, when we understand that it is all throughout us, and not just in our skin, but in our eyes, in our brain, in all tissues throughout our body, once again, I ask you, from the bellows of nature, as I have said, how can we let these individuals lead us? How can we let these individuals treat us? And how can we let these individuals direct the energy and the path of melanin beings? How can you do it? These are the same people blocking out the sun, saying that it's getting too warm. We've already established that. How can they talk about there's too many carbon emissions when this whole planet, or so-called planet, is based off carbon? That's the perfect argument to destroy it. It's too much carbon. That's all it is. You see how deep this is? You see how it's coming back to you? None of those other people matter, because all of those other people are on the same team. I want to read something to y'all, just to show you how they're keeping you mindful of what's going on. Oh, I'm charged up. Charged up like I'm in church. It's out of Reuters. I'll read it. It was published 25th of August, 2021. It says, U.S. troops call it World War Z. RT correspondent in Kabul airport describes horrendous situation. RT reporter Murad Gazdeev says that what he and his crew saw at Hamid Karzai Airport in Kabul after reaching it resembled a scene from a zombie apocalypse movie after a week of hectic evacuation efforts by the U.S. and its allies. What? Now, these people have seen war all throughout the globe, the so-called globe. And you're comparing this to World War Z? Why? Were they running like zombies? Were they running from a zombie? Were they acting like zombies? Did you see somebody eating brains? I see people all hectic together. I just think of a war scenario. I don't think of a zombie apocalypse. But they want to keep you mindful of the end game. They want to keep you mindful of the end game. Now, I'm going to show you a video, and, I'm going to let you know of the guy, because it just burst, because it's one of the reasons why, I did this video in the first place, because it just, after I saw it, I said, it's going down. And only we have a chance at doing anything. But we're going to have to wake up. We're going to have to redefine what we are so we can then define who we are. But let's just state 1976 Copyright Act, Section 107, for allowances made for fair use for purposes of commentary, criticism, education, scholarship, news reporting. But overall, here at the FOF Squad, waking your ass up. So we're going to take a look at this video, just a couple minute video. Let's get it.
A mother says that a Cook County judge has taken away her parental rights after learning that she's not vaccinated.
Dane Placco is live at Daily Plaza with this story. Dane?
Yeah, and what all parties agree is a very unusual, if not unprecedented step. A Cook County judge here at the Daily Center has stripped a Chicago mom of her parenting time because she's refused to get the COVID vaccination shot.
I miss my son more than anything. It's been very difficult. I haven't seen him since August 10th.
August August 10th, that's the day Rebecca Furlan appeared in court via Zoom along with her ex-husband for a child support hearing involving their 11-year-old son. Now, the two share custody, or had shared custody in parenting time, 50-50. She says out of the blue, Cook County Judge James Shapiro asked her whether she'd been vaccinated. She told him no, she had not, because she's had bad reactions to vaccines in the past. Judge Shapiro then ordered that she be stripped of all parenting time with her son until she gets vaccinated. Over the past 2 weeks, she's been able to talk to him on the phone and via video call, but she has not seen her son in person. Furlan is now appealing that order, saying the judge has no business taking away her parenting rights simply because she's not vaccinated.
I think it's wrong. It had nothing to do with what we were talking about. And
You think it's wrong? Like she said, he came out of the blue and said it. It wasn't even nothing the father recommended. Now, she had already told this dude, she said, well, I've had bad reactions from vaccinations. Don't give a fuck. You'll be able to see your child when you get one. How about that? Now, if she has an adverse reaction, something happens to her, life gets taken, is that judge going to be responsible? He going to be paying her bills? Is he going to be visiting the child acting like the mother? You see what type of power they trying to let you know we got? I don't give a damn if you did have bad reactions from a vaccination. You're not seeing your son unless you get one. See, a legal precedent is going to be established from this. So beware if when school starts, your children are in school and the outbreak happens, and then they ask you, are you vaccinated? And you say no. And they're like, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, or I'm sorry, sir. You won't be able to pick your child up until you are. Okay? Check. We got that. See, because, like I said before, these beings understand what they have to do. Like we talked about, even with the global warming thing, we pointed this out, but I want to say it again because I'm going to show you how many holes are in their argument. Even when they talk about global warming and they say, well, yeah, the weather's changing. We have to ignore the fact that they up here in these skies streaking back and forth. Do we not? We have to worry about them streaking back and forth. And even meteorologists have said that they have to account for that. Take that into account, because then they'll confuse that with weather patterns. All right? From their Doppler radar systems and all of that. And then so they have to take that into consideration whenever that they go up there streaking. Okay? And yet they're blocking out the sun. And then you'll say, and then Blancos will say, oh, we're all in the same boat. But I'm going to ask you one important question. What people does it hurt adversely if the sun is blocked out? Will it hurt Blancos more, who don't have to be in the sun as much? Or will it hurt us, especially black people in the northern latitudes who really don't even get as much sun because we have a short summer? We don't live in the subtropical regions like in Florida or anything like that, or in tropical regions like over in our, over in Central America and stuff like that, and over in Africa. We don't live over in tropical regions, so we need more sun. So considering the fact that we don't get as much, we either going to have to move, or we're all going to be in dire straits because we're not getting no sun, period. Even those who are in regions where the sun is out the most. You see what type of conundrum this puts us in? So they have realized, the elite have realized. Remember I said that these small systems are nothing but a reflection of the big system. They know that they have to block out the sun. This has already been said. This is fact. Who does this adversely affect more than other people? Okay, so if it affects us adversely more than other people, why do people keep saying, oh, we're in the same boat? See how I said this is disarming you, distracting you? How are you in the same boat when it takes you longer to get the vitamin D from them UV rays than it does them? And if the sun is, and if you don't have no sun, we already know what vitamin D does to cancer, or the lack of vitamin D, which is called the sunshine vitamin. Because we've established that strong bones make strong blood. Once again, I ask you, how are you letting a people lead you who don't contain what you contain? This melanin is in all our tissues. It is bigger than just being skin deep. So the next time you hear somebody saying, oh, we're all in the same boat, Or it's just the color of my skin that you dislike. Please call him a sideshow Bob. That's sideshow Bob. Them sideshows. We have already determined through the metaneta, and then we've been able to obviously accredit it by referencing a Blanco scientist and her stating that what? That this melanin is a migratory cell, travels all throughout the body and is in the eyes, the brain, and every tissue. So I'm going to ask you again, how can they be a dermatologist or a skin scientist and not have the very skin that is needed to survive in this realm? Once again, I'm going to ask you, is it racist? Or do you find yourself in a situation where you are letting individuals govern you who naturally cannot have your best interests at heart? Who naturally cannot have your best interests at heart? Do you think if you was the same, why would they be putting on sunscreen to go out in your sun? And they can sit up all day and say, oh yeah, well, black people need sunscreen too. Okay, if we did, how's we surviving? You only created it in 1938. How is we surviving with it in the tropical region? It's hotter in the tropics than it is in temperate climate zones, than it is in subtropical zones. So how are we surviving for thousands and thousands of years before your sunscreen? I need somebody in the church to say amen. But yet you have to put on an artificial version of melanin to be out here. This is fact. This is not me. How am I being seen as a divisive individual for just letting you know these things? I did not divide you. Nature had already done the math. Stop letting people distract you. They don't know nothing about these wars, how long-standing it is. Like we've already came to the conclusion, these Afghans ain't nothing but Europeans. And you think that they're different because then they got a little hue by blending into those who have melanin and that they, speak a Semitic language. But they identify as Europeans, and that's why they're getting help. Just like after World War II, every European nation that wanted help got help. Even after all of the shooting and the bombing and all of that, the chemical, biological warfare, they all came together, put money in a pot, and helped each other rebuild. Facts. Over feelings. FOF squad.